I did my research at Rabobank, and what you see at big corporate organizations in general, they are very interested nowadays in the concepts diversity and inclusion. Everyone is using these terms, but in my opinion, these big companies don't always know how to apply these concepts. And so I think like 10 years ago, people were more speaking about diversity, but nowadays, like inclusion is the new thing. And in my theoretical framework, I try to make, really try to highlight the difference between diversity and inclusion. And I used theories by Thomas and Ailey, and they have like 3 paradigms that they are using. And I think the first one is that you are applying diversity because you have to do it by law or by regulations. The second one is that you're applying diversity in your organizations because it's a business case. You have the feeling that if you apply diversity, you have a more diverse workforce, that you will attract more diverse customers and employees. And the third one refers to inclusion, and that's rather really, it's not really focused on this business case, but more on establishing a bottom-up movement where everyone feels included. And I thought it was very interesting that how employees gave meaning to the concept of diversity and inclusion, and what they thought were the differences, and also how different departments were thinking about these concepts and how they try to create an inclusive environment in the organization. And also during my research, it was a very big scope and difficult to really grasp all the aspects, and I was kind of, it was difficult to think like how I could give Rabobank advice or something about this concept, because there were so many different opinions and meaning-giving systems about this concept. But in the end, to answer your question, they were very happy with my feedback. In the end, I gave I think like I was located in 3 departments, and in every department I was located in 1 team. So I first had several presentations within the team, also during my research, just to give feedback on what I was seeing on the work floor and what I was doing and what I wanted to achieve with my research. In the end, I gave a presentation in every team, and they gave me extra input. So it was kind of like almost like a kind of focus group. And then in the end, I presented it for everyone who was interested, and that was more like the final conclusion. But yeah, I thought they would be like very critical, but actually they were very nice, and they were very welcoming towards like all these perspectives on diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
In general, when they speak about diversity, people normally think about ethnic diversity, while in practice it's not only about gender or ethnic diversity, but there are so many categories that people are combining to the concept of diversity. So they're also thinking about age, or in which region you are living, or it could be anything. So I think what was very important that employees were also stating that if people from HR are organizing things for diversity, that's not only focused on different ethnic groups, but or when they have quota for diversity, that's not only focused on gaining more women into the organization, but the organization should really focus on like all the aspects of diversity. And that's, I think especially focus on power within organizations is super important. I think a lot of research is not really taking into account like this informal relations on the work floor. We think that like organizations are kind of rational system where everything is yeah, we don't really take into account these informal relations or power relations that also create exclusion on the work floor. So in further research, I also think it's important that when analyzing an organization, that it's important that you take into account the hierarchy and how the relations between people, if you really would like to grasp the situation. Mm-hmm. That's kind of funny. In the beginning, I was extremely critical about everything what big organizations are doing. Since I studied anthropology, so I was really into all the work of NGOs, and I was really against big corporate organizations. And this research opened my eyes that, although a lot of things are really not good in big organizations, I really saw a lot of effort and a lot of energy from employees to really make a difference. And I really learned a lot about working in a very corporate environment. And as an anthropologist, normally you wouldn't really expect to work in such an environment, but it really changed my perspective as well, just to be surrounded by all these banking people, because they really have a different mindset. So that was kind of funny. In the beginning of the year, I participated in a boardroom, and in the beginning, people were like that I was very alternative in my thoughts and how I approached, how I approached different questions. But in the end, they called me corporate Nikki to make fun of me. But was kind of the examples that I kind of made a shift as well. I don't really see myself as corporate Nikki now, but I really think I do shifted in my way of thinking about how big organizations work. And another thing, I think I also learned a lot about positionality, because it's super important when doing research. And I was really aware when I entered the teams where normally a senior, like most managers are male and they're white and they're have a certain age, they're from a certain age group, and as a young girl, you're white, and people not always take you that seriously. So it was also very interesting how to position myself and how to, I think when you want to do research, would like to talk with people. Like if I would go to South America, I'm learning, for example, Spanish in order to communicate with the people for my research. But when I'm going to a bank, it's also important to understand their language and learn how to communicate how they communicate. So I think that also I learned a lot about how to position myself in a big organization.